Okay. Oh, well, welcome everyone to this special SIGIST from the ANZ testing board. Today we've got a really special guest, but before we get to our special guest, just want to just tell you a little bit about the Australia-New Zealand Testing Board. We are the official International Software Testing Qualification Board member board for Australia and New Zealand. We're a not-for-profit organisation established in 2006, and we aim to build, support, improve and advance the software testing profession within Australia and New Zealand. I'd like to start by an acknowledgement of country. I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay my respects to the elders past, present and emerging. So today we have a very special guest. So grab your lunch, nestle down and have some questions ready for Wilfred Samuels. He's the founding partner of TestPilot AI and a recognized leader in the world of software testing. And today we're going to be talking about AI and how we can leverage AI to improve testing outcomes for our organizations. And without any further ado, I'll bring in Wilfred. Hello, Wilfred. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, good day, Stuart. Hi, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Yeah, it's lovely to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. We're really looking forward to this presentation today. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about kind of your background and how you've come to be where you are today?
Yeah, lovely. Yes, my testing journey actually started when I was about 13 years old, believe it or not. And it's a bit of a story behind it. I didn't even know about testing then because I was born in a small place called George in South Africa. And my father worked at a vegetable factory called the Green Giant. Some of you might be aware of this brand. It's an international brand. And when I was 13 years old, he used to take me with him to work on the farm and into the factory. And I used to get $3 a day doing that during my holidays. And part of that work was to sort out what we call zucchinis. We call it back in South Africa baby marrows. And and yeah, I used to look at for defects for each of the zucchinis. If it's too soft, I put it in one bin. If it have a weird color or it's too powdery, I put it in another bin. And then it used to go for pig foods. So then we have a sorting classification, and it has the zucchini needs to be a certain quality. And if it is nice and hard, that's great. Then it goes into a certain sort bin. And if it's a certain good color, it goes into another bin. And all of the zucchinis then went, they will ship it over to America and into Europe for the customers. And the bad ones, they will sell it locally. Or, as I said, it goes to pig foods. And I never knew then it's about testing. The same company, actually, when I was about 8, just after school, they provide me with a bursary. And that's where I started IT. And from there, I worked as a COBOL programmer for a company called EPSA in South Africa. And from there, I went into testing for a company called Primerica in overseas. And I worked in various companies in Europe, the States, and also now in New Zealand as co-founder. Obviously, did my ISTQB in various certifications. Yeah, pretty much the rest is history.
So you've been testing since you were knee-high to a grasshopper.
Yeah, totally. And I think we all did. We just didn't know because we're always testing the boundaries of our
Yeah,
parents. We're testing the boundaries of the law,
standard,
of life.
standard.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
it's inside of us to test. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, we're really excited to hear your insights and your experience in this real hot topic right now, and it could change the face of testing, the testing industry as we know it. obviously
Okay.
leveraging AI to do a number of different things to help us on our testing journey. So
Mm.
what I'll do is we'll bring up the slides, and I'll let you talk to the audience. And just a reminder, everyone, in the panel on the right hand side or in the comments, please post any comments or any questions, and we'll leave about 10 to 15 minutes at the end of this session. So Wilfred will talk for maybe about 30 minutes, and then we'll have questions and answers at the end. So feel free to post your comments, etc., and we can look at those towards the back end of the session. All right, over to you, Wilfred. Thanks very much.
Lovely. So what I want to talk about today is just going beyond the hype. You know, there's a lot of hype on LinkedIn. There's a lot of hype in the news. Everywhere we read, we inundated with AI news in the latest trends of AI, and a lot of myths, but also a lot of exciting uh, uh, and evolving activities in AI. And I just want to talk today about how we can use AI as testers, how we can embrace AI to increase our coverage and our testing efficiency, and basically lead into change, which is busy happening. So yeah, I would like to think that I'm qualified enough at this point of time to give my testing opinion on AI. As I said earlier, I started my in-officer career when I was 13 years old. But right now, I have over 25 years of global QA and test leadership experience. I worked in organizations like Ireland, UK, South Africa, and now in New Zealand, various industries. And obviously, to back my experience up, I always keen to lifelong learning and educational learning, and therefore I always try to do the various certifications with ISTQB, and 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 obviously still learning and busy doing my thesis at the moment in emerging technology. Beyond testing, I'm also qualified as a personal trainer because I love fitness, I love people, and also at some stage had my own gym as a Pilates instructor on the side hustle. And yeah, and I'm also volunteering as a barista at a local New Zealand NGO. And because I have an 11-year-old son, I assist with football coaching and mentoring of youth. So that's a bit about myself. So what I want to kick this off with is what we all pretty much know is the how the testing life cycle have evolved. So we know back in the 1990s, for some of you might know, some most of you most probably not. Uh, we used to do manual testing. The automation was something that I've never heard of, and in fact, I started my career as a as I said as a developer in 1999, and we were sitting at the in a corporate building, really nice and comfy on the fifth floor. And then I've heard there is something or people called testers, and I was quite surprised because as a developer, I used to do my own coding, do my own unit testing, my own testing, and then I used to do my own pull requests and push everything into production, and just hope it works, and which usually did, and a lot of time of the time it broke. And when I went to visit the testers, because I really wanted to see who is these people, they were actually put inside of a basement in a parking lot in the building. And I was surprised, and it was quite cold, Uh, it wasn't the best condition to work in. And and really, I saw that time that testers wasn't as respected as they were now, but maybe that was just back home. Then after that, it was the age of automation. Went overseas, me and my friend, because we both were developers, and we both started at the company, and we managed the testing. And he eventually went into automation. When I went back home, I saw the testers that actually moved up one level, So obviously the working conditions were better, and they were getting the great tools, great equipment. Like that time it was Mercury, and it became Quality Center, and then recently I think ALM as a test management tool. So and then a few years when I went back again, they were on the fifth floor with the developers. So obviously testing got a lot of respect and a lot of credibility over the years. And just as I thought we're settling in, we're making our markers testers, that we now equal and treated equal like developers, then AI come, right? And now it's go like, oh no, what's going to happen now with us? Are we going back to the basement? You know, are we going backwards? And this is really when I start looking into AI and the value of AI, and for us as testers, what is next? And that is really what I want to talk about. Where we are now is in the AI, or what I would love to call augmented intelligence testing era, where the key transformation is from writing test cases to reviewing test cases, which is written by large language models. And we usually used to detect the defects, and now it's all about predicting the issues using these models and these tools. So there's quite a big shift at the moment. So yeah, this slide I really want to show you a few bits of pieces which I got from the internet, and there seems to be quite a scaremongering that AI is impacting and will impacting QA as well as development headcount, and there's a lot of questions on that as well. And so I just want to do a little poll before we continue. I would like to know who already is using AI in the testing lifecycle. And maybe you can just type in the chat yes, so that I can just understand how many of you are already using AI in your testing lifecycle. Okay, so this doesn't seem to be many. It's just lovely. Okay, okay. And how many of you are exploring or considering using AI in your testing lifecycle? Thank you, Vanessa. Yeah, hey, Jantana. Hey, Anzu. Lovely. Hey, Session. Oh, GitHub Copilot. That's amazing. That's great. And who is worried about AI replacing the job or replacing them as testers? Seems nobody's worried. Great. It will be interesting to know in the discussion later on, how do you see how AI looks for you in the future. And tell me, who is still using ISTQB methods regularly, like boundary value analysis, equivalence partitioning, all the testing techniques? Stuart is. Hey, Jantana. Oh, lovely. Using Copilot and ChatGPT, but need to explore more and get specific testing AI tools. I like that. I like that. I can see that, Jantana. And we work together quite recently, and obviously in sessions together about this. So I understand where you're coming from. Lovely. Great. So what we will cover, guys, just to set the expectations, is where AI tools fit in the testing today, how AI help its testing phase, the key challenges and things to watch out for, what we need to consider from an ethics and security point of view, which we can't ignore, and how AI works alongside what we already know from ISQB method point of view. What we will not cover, because of the time constraint, is the deep dives into AI algorithms, live coding or tool demonstrations of any of the tools we are mentioning, or any tool comparisons or charts, or any low-level implementation details. And thank you there for session, which is mentioning that ISTQB techniques are useful. I totally agree with you on that. And also to Parajan that is saying he's also using ISTQB techniques. So lovely there. Right. So we're gonna move into right, guys. So the way I see it, and I don't like to call it artificial intelligence. I rather want to change the narrative for myself, call it augmented intelligence. And I see it nothing but a tool that we use to enhance and to speed up our work. And instead of starting at a blank page, it gave us an opportunity to start with a draft. You know, so you can see at the moment there's a lot of AI tools available, and I'm going to talk to you about how I use some of it in the different development and testing life cycles. So let's zoom in and look at the big picture, how AI, where AI really fits in into the world of testers. So if you look at the requirements in planning, AI can flag vague and contradictory statements. It can suggest acceptance criteria and even spot early compliance risk. On a recent ERP platform, uh, which was basically using Salesforce as a platform, I was using Claude to scan a backlog, and I picked up issues that we couldn't spot it in weeks. And also, it made quite the requirements quite clear for me. The great thing about the version of Claude we use it in a secure AWS version. So it was not the general public facing Claude. So therefore, security was quite taken care of. From a development point of view, AI tools like Copilot or GitHub Copilot, as Session was alluring to, even Devon is quite a big one now, and I can see Codex is also making a lot of waves now. But these co-pilots can actually write the code faster and smarter for the developers. And from a testing point of view, that means we can start testing earlier because the code gets dropped to us earlier. And also the code, in essentially, in theory, should be of better quality because that these tools can actually uh, help the developers creating their own unit test cases. From a test execution and analysis point of view, AI can these days, through the tools, prioritize our tests, analyze our results, and spot any anomalies in real time. And from a deployment and monitoring point of view, AI can help us catch issues earlier. It can make smarter decisions, and it can help us learn from the monitoring feedback, and then we can put it back into our test planning. So the bottom line is basically AI there is AI tools available, and it can be potentially used at every phase of the development and testing life cycle. And you don't have to use it every day and everywhere. But what matters most is for us to take life, one phase of this life cycle, development of testing, and start exploring and start experimenting with the tool so that we can embrace AI and lean into the evolution of it. So I'm just going to deep dive quickly in a few of these phases, about three of them, before we moving on, or about two, considering our time. If you look at the requirements and test planning states, on one of the ERP projects that I worked, we had user stories written in completely different formats, and there was no clear acceptance criteria. So I know this sounds quite familiar to you, like vague user stories, vague acceptance criteria, or even no acceptance criteria. And we all know that it leads to defects downstream. This is where I really found AI genuinely helpful because I use Claude, the same Claude version with a secure AWS backend to review the user stories for me, to highlight any missing criteria, and to recommend and suggest acceptance criteria, I could have then go back and then really sort and flesh this out with the stakeholders and with the BAs. So how I find and using it is basically as a second set of eyes. Then there's other tools on the market like Visual AI and SpecMate, and that can, using machine language, suggest test scenarios for you directly from the requirements when you feed it the requirements or acceptance criteria. And it also can include the edge cases, which I find it does actually very well. And these tools are basically specialized in doing that, and they are trained daily from the data to do such. In the same ERP project which I worked on, when I used these tools, I found that we could have uh, reduced the downstream defects by about 24%. So this is just not theoretical. It's really give big value. From a development and code creation point of view, I recently worked with a product development team to assist them in the implementing a DevOps process, and they didn't do unit testing or any testings, which I can relate to because as developers we just want to code, and we're happy just to code and not to test. And then we start exploring together. We start exploring GitHub Copilot, and it really starts to shine because it suggested better code, and it helped generate the relevant unit testers for the developers. And it also spot untested paths when the developers start implementing unit testing as part of the development lifecycle, and that also enhance the quality of the code and is essentially the product, and the feedback from the customers that there was less defects. Then there's also other tools that you can explore like Deep Code AI, Qdana, Q, and also like Codex again is making quite some waves. And when I spoke recently to that same development company, I got some good feedback that they have pushed the test coverage, which they didn't have before, and they could have start really measuring the test coverage as well. They have pushed it up to 65%, and they reduce the time spent on the unit testing or test cases by 40%, and that is just using a GitHub Copilot. So that was quite some great feedback. And a few months ago, they were not even doing unit testing. And again, the end users came back and said they could have seen a significant increase in quality of the product. So you find there was a lot of happy sponsors over there. Um, I'm going to just briefly speak about the test design phase. Um, there is tools like Functionize. It can help you take plain English requirements. If you don't want to use Claude and you were concerned about the security, and it can and Functionize can also generate structured test cases for you. It's not always perfect, and you still need that human intervention, and you still need the human to evaluate it. And then we can talk about it later about what is the impact on us as testers and how does our role transition. I also used Eggplant about a few years ago, and I must say it's something to also look into. I am going to skip a few slides, but you're going to have access to the slides, and you're welcome to read some of the tools that I've been working with and the difference that it can make. So because there's some of the tools which we can use from a test execution and analysis point of view, and then also testing don't stop after we have just tested. When we deploy, we still need to be aware of the quality. So from an integration and deployment and monitoring point of view, it's also important to monitor any defects. And then a slide that I really want to talk about is the ethical considerations when we're using these tools or when we plan to use these tools. because let's face it, AI is moving fast, and the last thing that we want to do is our data to leak or to break the trust of our stakeholders. So one thing that we need to look out for when we use these tools is the risk of privacy. So you need to make sure that how you handle the sensitive data, you know where the sensitive data is going to, and try to use synthetic data where it makes sense, and handle your data with care. And also, you don't want to expose sensitive data onto the web. Then another uh, big issue is biasness. So obviously, AI can reinforce stereotypes. Recently, I've generated some test cases, and I found that AI actually for the certain user stories did not cover accessibility test cases. And funny enough, or ironically enough, this project that we were working on was for a few thousand end users, and all of these end users was from a diverse background. So accessibility test cases was really crucial in this project. So you need to evaluate the output of these tools. And then there's also security risk that we need to be aware of. Okay, but there's good news. You don't have to be a privacy lawyer or ethics philosopher. You just need to build awareness about this. Right. Okay. Right. And now, so where does ISTQB fits into all of this? Just to let you know, the ISTQB education and body is still quite relevant. Um, I find that the techniques is still relevant, and sharpening up on your techniques because you're going to still need it in your tools. Um, and then also the ISTQB have evolved, and we now see a lot of specialization courses being offered by ISTQB, especially in AI. Um, and there is now also a new ISTQB released, a foundation for AI testing. It's still in early days, but I got some great feedback on that, and I'm excited to do the course myself. And also, what ISTQB does, it brings us testers together as a community, and it also gives us a common language because the terminology in testing, especially with AI, is always shifting, and having a body to basically define the terminology and give us one voice and give us the opportunity to be able to use and speak in the same terminology. Right. So I'm just going to put all of the last slides together. Uh, there's a slide called "How to Introduce AI Safely." For the sake of time, please feel free to go and read that. But an important slide for me is where do you fit in as a tester? What do you need to know? What do you need to do less? What do you need to do more of? Um, and that's quite interesting because what I found that as testers, we need to prepare for the continuous evolution of AI. And what we need to do less is try to do lesser manual test scripting and repetitive regression in writing the same test data and setups over and over again, because there's AI tools that can do that, you know. And frankly, I don't mind AI tools to do that so that I can focus. And this is what I think we should focus on more is prompt engineering, how to write great prompts. And because the writing great prompts is going to be like writing great test cases in these days. It's about clarity, logic, and intent, and also change the way you ask. You know, so because when you change the way you ask, the AI tools can change the results. And also, what I believe we're going to focus on more is output verification. So AI will draft us the outputs, but we still need to ask, does this cover edge cases? Does it align with the business risk? And does the output, what AI produce, make sense? And that will ensure that we start moving more from just doers into strategic thinking. And then obviously we need to be aware of governance and guidance. What standards are we using? And I know organizations have a lot of security policies in place and standards on how we must use the AI tools or should use the AI tools, and how we should not use it, and what data we can feed it and what data not, and classification of data. So there's a lot of movement around security and risk policies in organizations. So one thing that I would like to recommend for you to start with is maybe from a requirements. There's many technical entry points you can start with today to sharpen or to start your AI journey. One is requirements enhancements. You can take some messy stories or old user stories from previous or old projects and put it into a reliable AI tool, and obviously ensure all the data privacy is being adhered to, and all your security checks is being done, and then prompt it to generate acceptance criteria and test cases for you, and see and compare it how you would have done it manually versus what it gives you, and ask it to provide you with some edge cases. Use your ISTQB techniques and create prompts of that. And then there is many other entry points, such as communication acceleration. Instead of writing the defects yourself and the release notes yourself, use an AI tool to be your co-pilot and ask it to do it with you and see what it comes up with. And does it looks better? Does it communicate clearer to your stakeholders and your teammates? So to wrap it up, because I would love to have a few discussions, I believe that AI is evolution, and I believe that our role become even more critical because as developers is using AI more and more, it doesn't essentially mean it's the code is of more quality. It must probably just mean they can deliver faster. But we all know when we deliver faster, there's a high probability that the quality decrease. And as testers, we going need to evaluate the developer's work still. I also believe we have complementary strengths that we can bring. Um, and then again, better testing doesn't mean more test cases. So avoid what I call test coverage theater. So you can have a lot of test cases, but it doesn't mean it's of value. Therefore, you need to apply your judgment and understand what the test case is actually supposed to do. Yeah, and then a major one is ethical considerations. Be responsible, understand how the privacy, uh, respect the privacy of data of organizations, understand where your data is going to when you use this AI tools. Look out for biasness, and obviously we all love fairness. Make sure the fair usage in the output that the AI tools uh, is basically generating is fair. And again, keep doing what we do. Have the tester's mindset, the curiosity, and the continuous urge for always want to learn. So pretty much there's a lot said in 30, just under 30 minutes if I'm not mistaken. And I'm basically opening the floor for any questions. And if I can't answer it, maybe somebody can answer it, or we will ask
Yeah,
ChatGPT.
well, I've got a few questions. Thank you so much, Wilfred. That was great. I know we had to skip through a couple of slides there and stuff. Maybe if we've got extra time, we can pop back to a couple of them, particularly around test design and test execution. But does anyone on the streams on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Has anyone got any questions for Wilfred on AI? If you do, please post in the comments section and we'll answer those live for you. But in the meantime, whilst people are thinking about that, a couple of questions from me. Where should we use AI in testing, and where should we not use it?
Mm, mm. No, thank you. That's a good question. Uh, in my view, I believe AI is best used, just like in coding as well, is augmenting the repetitive high volume task, and tasks like test case generation, defect triage, log analysis, and especially visual testing, um, and basically to accelerate your exploratory testing preparation. Yeah, and where I think we should not use AI is to create test cases for compliance, regulatory test cases, because usually that's around sensitive data. And we need to make sure that test cases is quite spot on. And if we're going to use AI, we must make sure the privacy of the data is respected, and that also that we evaluate the outcome of the test cases.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. We've got a comment coming through from Chandana. Thanks, Wilfred. Great session. Keen on how these tools incorporate prioritization.
That's great. That's great. It's a great question. Yes. So, Jantana, we have tools uh, that can actually match your user stories and your requirements. And based on continuous learning, it can be prioritized. There is tools like Launchable, um, and even Functionize and Testum, if I'm not mistaken. And Apply tools also can prioritize the test cases. And the way it went about to do it is looking at the various paths, and it learn how the end users is using your application, and it feed through the monitoring systems, and it feedback on where is the critical or most used functionality in your application, and based on that it suggests more test cases or edge cases, and it tells you which paths you did not cover yet or is not covered yet, and then it actually use all of its test cases and prioritize it based on the behavior and the usage of the end users. I'm not. Does that answer your question?
I hope it does, Chandana. Let us know in the comments. In the meantime, what level of oversight should we have when using AI in testing? What's your views on that?
Yeah. So I think we should not leave it to the AI to do the oversight for us, or just assume everything that the tools give us is correct. I like to think I use it almost like a junior assistant, or or a teenager like my boy, and I totally need to still supervise. I still need to query. I still need to understand the task that I gave. It's what I want, and it's actually managing my expectation. Um, and then obviously, I still need to guide. I still need to evaluate. I still need to prompt. So I think the level of oversight, it varies from depending on the maturity of the tools. However, as a rule of thumb, I it's about treating it almost any AI tool as your assistant, rather treating it like a tool that replaces you.
Yeah. So you kind of view it as it gives you a good first draft.
Yeah.
You want to check it, refine it with your follow-up prompts, etc. And like you're saying earlier, the new skill for testers is really going to be, the
Mhm.
new test design is going to be AI prompts, right?
Yes, totally. Instead of writing test cases like we do now, the AI will write the test cases. It's about really critically thinking about your prompts the way we used to about how we write test cases, but now it's about critically how do we write this prompt. And the prompt will evolve because AI is evolving, and the prompt that was useful yesterday and the techniques that we used yesterday, just like a test case, will be outdated and it will be flaky and not working today. So we need to evolve our prompt techniques and abilities to write prompt daily, still the way we, just as we upkeep and maintain our test cases.
Yeah. So how reliable are AI generated prompts and outputs if the tools do keep changing?
Yeah, yeah, that's great. That's great. It's like it's like almost thinking about how, I can answer it this way by asking a question back. How reliable is a test case which I write today in 2 weeks from now if there was already two releases of that application that the test case is supposed to test, right?
Yeah, it's like
So
having an automation script when the manual script
yes, and not
changed, like,
maintaining it.
yeah, or the
So
code changed.
yes, so it's about, so the reliability is part of our role, and that's how our role will also evolve. It's about how do we bring integrity and reliability into the AI tools functionality.
Yeah. You kind of have to bring in like change management, if there's new
Mm,
requirements that could impact the test cases that you've already got that were AI generated, being able to pull that into your
version
kind of
control.
your ecosystem
Yeah,
so that AI can work out, okay, what impacts would that have? What do we need to change within our test suite, right?
correct. Yeah. So that is a typical version control, right? So you need to think about change control, not people change management. And version control is about having a repository for your prompts and go like, okay, how do I keep updating it? That being also said, there is certain tools that do self healing, right? So you can create certain scripts, and it actually, as the your application change, it goes and update that scripts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you do hear some buzzwords obviously around AI at the moment, and self-healing is one. And I know
Mm,
certainly someone in an organization I've worked with, they they a lot of organizations will say, "Oh yeah, yeah, we do self-healing," but sometimes that is just test automation anyway.
pretty much.
Um,
Yes, yes.
so I think we do have to have. I think it's important for us to have a certain level of cynicism, like healthy cynicism about some of the claims that
Of
some of
course.
these AI tools and companies use, because some of them might be jumping on the bandwagon. So I think we still got to use our critical minds to understand, the benefits and capabilities of test automation and performance testing
Mm,
that have been around for a long time, and not just to get too overly excited and be jumping in and believing some of this stuff all of the time. I think it's important. We've also got a question from Vignesh. Have you used AI for test automation? Love to hear your thoughts.
Uh, personally, I use Eggplant AI. I don't have a lot of in-depth experience with Selenium AI, which I believe is also now a big thing. But my experience with Eggplant AI, I find that quite helpful. And my understanding is pretty much is is still the automation tools of how we know it, like RunnerX, Eggplant, Selenium, Playwright. But what is different is the added evolution of bringing in generative AI, agentic AI, LLM, large language model, and machine learning into this, which it didn't used to have, right? So it's basically letting the tools evolve, just like we evolve as human beings. Um, and this is just my view because the the tools that the same tools which I used 2 years ago look totally different and behave totally different now, currently. So it's always evolving. So to answer your question, yes, and I find it quite useful, and I can see the evolution of the tools. I can see the benefits. However, we still need to be looking at it critical, because not all the time it it delivers to the promise it makes. And there is sometimes a steep learning curve of these various tools.
Yep. Okay, good answer. What's the biggest benefit organizations integrating AI into testing can expect?
Mm, mm, mm. I I I think it's the it's it's the acceleration of repetitive task. The repetitive task that takes days to do, that the teams can now almost automate that, for lack of better words, and the teams can now think start focusing their time on value added services and value added tasks, like strategic task, and looking into where the gaps is, and gap fit analysis. And I also believe that you can a tester with the AI tools, um, they they will find the job more exciting. The company culture and the ways of work. AI will also, when you implement AI, that also change from an innovation point of view, and you also find your workforce more almost encouraged and more inspired to want to work for the organization.
Yeah,
Mm,
I think it is exciting. Like I've worked in a obviously I work with a lot of organizations in my role at PwC,
mm,
and you see the variety of maturity and test tools and capabilities across a lot of different organizations, and I can genuinely say that those organizations that do invest in testing and have
mm.
a lot of them are having their own generative AI tools now, and
Yes.
it's a massive lure for the best talent out there to have these advanced tools that people are getting really excited about, and they actually got an appetite to learn because they know that this is the way it's going to go, right?
Totally.
And if you don't adopt some of these things,
Mm,
you're going to potentially lose people, and you're just going to fall behind. And I think certainly one of the massive benefits that I see is test case generation,
mm,
right? Putting in requirements, putting in your, your functional specs, your technical specs, your interface specifications, etc., and getting at least a decent first draft in what those test scenarios should be, including positive and negative tests, and then getting a view on the test coverage. It's such a great starting point um, that I can see a lot of benefits in terms of if it's used right, getting excellent coverage very fast. And it's that time to manually create hundreds of manual tests.
mm.
That costs a lot of money, time, and effort. And if you can really cut that down massively, it's a huge benefit to an organization.
Mm. And I think there's also the human factor of it. The emotional factor is, if you give me a blank page and you expect me to start from a blank page, building a building without any foundation or any tools, that will put me under a lot of pressure, right? And there's expectation to be done with the building at a certain date. I think what AI as a tool help us, and a supportive tool, is to really help us manage that angst that comes of a blank page. So imagine you're getting a draft and you go like,
Yeah,
okay,
it's a great
I am confident or
starting
not
point.
confident, and then you start collaborating. And
Yeah,
and uh,
yeah.
and I find as a test consultant as well, sometimes the world is alone. You don't have a testing team that you always work with, and AI can sometimes be a great companion. Just to bounce things off.
You
I
new
find I
best
use it
friend.
for my
Yeah,
life admin, asking it questions about around mentoring, around coaching. For myself. When I struggle and I don't have somebody around me to bounce off a certain idea, it's not always spot on, but what it sometimes give me and I don't agree, at least I have learned that I don't agree. So what is the
Yeah.
next best option? Is to come up with my own
Yep.
suggestion. So it
Yep.
helps. It becomes that soundboard.
Yeah, yeah. And another thing is like test planning. You're writing a test strategy or a test plan. You can use your previous ones and put in new information based on this particular implementation you're working on. Like, give me some feedback on my test plan. How can I improve it from the perspective of a BA or a group executive that's going to be signing this off, etc. Give me some
Yes.
feedback on my work. We've got a couple of other questions from everyone online. Session, Sebastian, great session, Wilfred. Lots of good info there. With the pace at which AI is getting adopted, are you seeing a shift in the market in terms of the skill set
Mm,
that
mm.
is expected of testers?
I love that question. I love that question. So the last 2 weeks, I went on LinkedIn and I went on Seek and I typed in testing jobs. And I would encourage you to do the same. And pretty much that will answer your question, right? So you will find a lot of the jobs now, unlike the past, is requesting certain skill sets, like technical more skill sets, working closer from to the developers, and owning more of the quality life cycle. Not just the way we saw used to where we used to write test cases, design the test cases, run it, and report on it. No, but it's actually now working in the monitoring and in the deployment phases of the product, working closer with the developers, and there is even now um, roles out there. I saw that what they are calling AI quality test engineer, you know. So I definitely there's a shift, and there's a lot of money being invested in AI tools, and the company's adoption has doubled since last year. Companies all over the world has doubled. Therefore, there's a lot of testing opportunities out there. However, the testers that's going to be successful in their jobs is the testers who understand and use AI, because that is the tools that these organizations is using at the moment.
Yeah,
So definitely, there is a change of what is required and expected from us from a skill set point of view.
yeah. And there is, and I'll just post in the comments, there is a certified AI
Hmm,
tester certificate from the ISTQB, which
great.
extends understanding of AI and deep machine learning.
Hmm,
Um, so that's a new course that's come out. It's really extensive, and I've heard really good feedback on that. So
yes.
you can do that through ISKI and the ANZTB. Um, so yeah, check that out. And one final question from the audience: which is the best AI tool we must learn for software testing? Quite a quite a tough one that.
Yeah,
Like
that's
there's
a
so
tough
many out
one.
in the market, but maybe like what's given you personally
Hmm,
like the best value
hmm,
potentially.
that's
In
interesting.
terms of build as a software tester, making your way in your career, to date, what would give our people like the most value in terms of a specific tool to learn?
I think a low cost tool that give a lot of value to me, two of them, right? But obviously, you need to be critically aware of the security and the type of data that you put in. Make sure that the privacy of the data, unless the organization have their own backend or cloud, which is tools. They're just using the tools as the generating engine and storing the data in their own cloud. I think for requirement analysis and generating test cases, I find Claude quite useful. Um, but for quick wins, I find ChatGPT easier to use and and not so in depth. But I found Claude to be quite more better with technical documentation.
Yeah. Well, what
Yeah.
about the
So, but this is my this is my view.
what about security considerations?
Mm.
Obviously, you wouldn't want to put sensitive data about your current client or anything like that into a chat GPT. So what are the considerations or ways around kind of the sensitive nature of data and putting that into chat GPT?
That's a great question. So a lot of the organization at the moment, they have Copilot. Microsoft Copilot is another great one to use, and the enterprise package is actually built-in security. And the promise and why organization is using the enterprise package is because it your data don't get shared, and it only belongs to you, and you can use your own data. And from a security policy point of view, and I know Jantana can actually say much more about it because she's actually doing a lot of research and working with such teams in big for big corp organization locally. They actually encourage to use Microsoft Copilot with the enterprise version. Then I also know Claude as well, the paid version. They also promise not to share your sensitive data. I don't know how true that is. And at some states, ChatGPT on the Teams version, they're also not sharing your data. However, what I find best is have a hybrid and integrated solution when you use this open AI systems as your engine, but you have your own cloud facility for the storage of your data or
Yeah,
your knowledge base.
just
Mm,
protect it. Yeah. Okay,
yeah,
that's great. Okay. Well, I think we're pretty much at time. I want everyone to be able to finish off before any meetings they've got on the hour. So thank you so much, Wilfred. That was really
uh,
insightful. Um, I know our audience loved it. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. And yeah, wish you all the best with your organisation in New Zealand. And
thank you very
I'm sure
much.
we'll see you back here soon for another special SIGIST presentation. So thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for the audience and everybody that participate and have listened. Thank you for your valuable time.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. Cheers. Bye bye.
Cheers.